Hi, this is Brandon with Leland Fly Fishing. Today I'm going to be tying for you a very killer effective pattern. This is a pheasant tail soft hackle nymph. This one's tied in an olive color. You can tie this in size 8, 10, all the way up to a size 20. The great thing about this is tying it in different sizes. I can match and play to a couple different patterns and sizes or bugs. So this one here is one that I'd fish during a green drake. This is a size 12, a size 16, 18, and 20 I'd tie and fish as a blue wing olive. So for our thread we're going to be using a Pell Olive 12-aught Semperfli Classic Wax. Okay, for our hook we're going to be using the Moonlit ML058 in the size 12. This is a jig hook. We tie all of our nymphs on jig hooks and we tie them as soft hackles. This allows them to ride hook point up, less snags, and better hook sets as well. So for the bead we're going to be using a Pell Olive apple color slotted tungsten from Moonlit. This is a 3.5 millimeter. You're just going to change the bead size to match your hook when you do different sizes. So we'll go ahead and get started for you today. I've already got my bead on my hook so that it's ready to go. We'll just set that in there. I'm going to take and start my thread just behind the bead. I don't really worry about creating anything in there to stop it from moving. I'm going to hold this tag end here to help create a nice smooth underbody, pushing each wrap up into the previous wrap all the way back to the bend of the hook. We'll clip that off. Since we're doing an olive colored pheasant tail, we're going to use an olive dyed pheasant tail. Okay, so I'm just going to take a good sized clump. Where this is a size 12, I want a fairly good sized clump. Okay, all those tips are pretty much aligned. And there's my pheasant tail there. Now I'm going to measure that out. I want it to be roughly the length of the hook shank. I'm going to hold this at about a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to wrap, and as I wrap I'm going to pull it tight, but each of those wraps is going to pull that pheasant tail fibers up on top. Okay, now for my ribbing, I'm just going to use a hot green 0.2 millimeter wire from Semperfli. I'm just going to tie that in on the side here. I need to go back over that pheasant tail that I had tied in for the tail just a little bit so that it wraps right at that tail there. And I'm just going to kind of create a nice underbody there covering up the wire wraps. Now I'm going to half hitch that, pull that off to the side. I like to use the Loon ergonomical hackle pliers on this. So I'm just going to take the pliers and get them all in there. Okay, now you can see I'm kind of twisting that up just a little bit. And the reason being is I actually don't want my pheasant tail fibers to separate. They are fragile, so I don't want to twist them too much. And I'm just going to wrap that up into the bead of the hook. Now I'm going to take and tie this off. I wrap in front, and then I'm going to wrap behind it, come back underneath, and I'm going to kind of crisscross and tie and lock those in. And that just secures that pheasant tail fiber in there, nice and secure. Now we'll trim that off. Now I'm just gonna make sure I get them in nice and good. Now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna counter wrap my wire, and this is going to give me a nice rib, but it's also going to help secure in this pheasant tail and make it a more durable fly. And I just want a nice even taper to this ribbing that I'm wrapping here. And I'm going to wrap it all the way up behind the hook. And this just makes sure I secure everything in. This fly is meant to get down anyways, so the added weight of that wire never hurts. Helicopter finish, cut that off. Now I'm going to take and add my thorax. So I'm going to add some Wonder Wax onto my thread here. This is my favorite wax to use when I'm doing some dubbing. So now that I've got that on there, we're going to take the Vicuna dubbing. This is an alpaca dubbing, okay? I'm going to take and use the golden olive. I really love the golden olive because it's got a UV property to it. It kind of glows and lights up. I don't need a big amount, just a nice small pinch. I'm going to go over the top of that pheasant that I've put down anyways. And this is going to give me a nice, good, buggy thorax. Okay, now I'm just going to wrap that. Plus it's also going to give me a nice point to help flare out my hackle. You can see that it's nice and buggy there. Okay, you can trim that out if you want. Make them a little bit shorter. This Vicuna dubbing works great in replacement of hare's ear dubbing. Okay, so I'm going to use a dark olive. Dark olive dyed grizzly from Whiting Farms. It's a hen saddle. This is a fairly large fly, so I need to make sure that I get a hackle fiber that's gonna be long enough and not too long. They're a little different for each one. So to measure, I'm going to put my hackle stem right up there behind the bead, and I want that to go almost back to the tail of my fly here. So now I'm just going to strip off all of these fuzzies. So I have my feather like so. Now when I tie this in, I'm going to tie it in on top, and I'm going to wrap towards you, away from me. So I'm going to strip off this side of the hackle stem, and I do that because I want my hackle stem to lay flat up against the hook point. I actually find I get a cleaner fly, and I don't have to try and doctor it and build up any unnecessary bulk in the tip there. I'm trying to push my hackle fibers rearward. So there, I've got that trimmed off. Now I've got my tie-in point. I'm not going to clip that off just yet. I'm going to use that. I'm going to secure that in. I want to kind of secure it so that it's angled a little bit. I'm going to go over twice. Now I'm going to push that back and go in front of it one time. I snip that out. Doesn't happen very often, but it happens on occasion. I'll just trim that out there. Now I'm going to slide that off to the side, trim down my hackle stem so I don't have unnecessary hackle stem. To wrap this, this is my favorite plier to do these soft hackles. I'm going to take and push that piece back and wrap over the top of it. I'm going to preen these back and I'm going to palmer each wrap, one right on top of the other. I don't want to capture any of the fibers from the hackle as I'm wrapping. This is probably enough, but I'm just going to give that little extra wrap just to get rid of the rest of that hackle on there. I tend to over hackle my soft hackles according to most people, but I like a full hackle fly. So you can see that my fibers are pretty much rearward already. I can pull them back and just kind of clean that in just a little bit if I want. I'm going to fill in that collar. Now we'll take and do a whip finish. I'll do a 3 turn. There's 1, 2, and 3. Then I use the Loon ergonomical whip finish tool, so I can use that snip tool on the end. Okay, to finish this off, I'm just going to use a little bit of Solarez Thin Hard. This is going to help secure in that knot, and it's also going to protect my bead from potential chipping, hitting any rocks or anything like that. So I'm just going to put a nice little dab on there. I'm going to take a bodkin, and I have this bodkin specifically for doing UV, so I'm just going to smooth that out. Make sure I cover up all of the thread and smooth that nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm just going to take my UV pin and cure that. You can see the UV properties in that dubbing. Gives it a nice glow to it as well. So this is the fly I tie to replace the Pheasant tail Nymph. I don't tie the casings and everything like that. This is what I found to be more productive. The cool thing is I can use purple, I can use black, I can use red, olive, there's a hunter green, there's a bleached tan type color that would work great for a lighter mayfly or PMD. So I can really tie some different patterns with this fly here. And there you go. That is an olive colored pheasant tail soft hackle. This is great for any kind of mayflies, and you can tie it anywhere from a size 8 all the way to a size 20. When I tie something smaller than a size 16, I usually go to the starling hackle and use starling for my hackle. Thank you. Have a great evening.